The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. It traveled through quantum channels that humanity had only begun to understand 3 months ago, when the first alien ship appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Galactic Council chambers floated in neutral space, a massive station built by civilizations far older than humanity. Inside the Great Hall, representatives from 40 different species watched as the Vrex High Commander delivered his ultimatum. His species stood tall, nearly 8 feet, with gray skin that looked like polished stone. Their empire controlled 47 star systems. They had been expanding for 400 years. The human species will surrender control of their star system within 30 standard days, the High Commander announced, his voice translated into every language through neural implants. They will relocate to the preserve worlds we have designated. They will submit to Vrex authority. This is not a negotiation. This is how we maintain order in the galaxy. Ambassador Tevrin watched from the observer section. His species, the Quill, had been part of the Council for 2,000 years. They had seen this happen before. The Vrex found a new species. They made demands. The new species either complied or got crushed. 12 species had already joined the Vrex Confederation this way. Some went quietly. Some fought brief, hopeless wars. Have the humans responded? Asked Council Speaker Morn, an elderly being whose species valued diplomacy above all else. No, the High Commander said. They received our message 18 days ago. They have sent nothing back. No acceptance. No defiance, nothing. Tevrin felt his spine ridge tingle. That was unusual. Most species responded immediately. They begged, they negotiated, they threatened, or they surrendered. But silence? That was new. Perhaps they need more time to understand, Speaker Morn suggested. They are newly contacted. Their translation systems might be inadequate. The High Commander made a dismissive gesture with his forearms. They understand. Their technology is sufficient. We have monitored their communications. They received our terms. They know what we demand. Another observer, a crystalline being named Shard, chimed in. The humans are strange. They developed faster than light travel without Council guidance. Their method is unusual, crude but effective. Tevrin had studied the human first contact files. When humanity revealed itself to the galaxy, they did so carefully. One ship, one message. They shared some technology, but not all. They answered some questions, but not others. They were polite but distant. Their weapons are also unusual, Shard continued. They use kinetic projectiles instead of plasma. They accelerate metal to extreme speeds. It seems primitive, the High Commander laughed. Primitive indeed. Our shields will stop their bullets easily. Our plasma cannons will cut through their ships like they are made of paper. Tevrin accessed the human database that had been shared with the Council. He scrolled through information about Earth, their homeworld. 1 planet, 4 colony worlds, all barely established, perhaps 200 ships in their entire fleet. Against the Vrex armada of 800 warships, they had no chance. But something bothered him. He opened the human entertainment files. Humans shared these freely, saying they wanted other species to understand their culture. Tevrin watched snippets of their movies, their historical records, their stories. War. So much war. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. 10,000 years of continuous conflict. They had weapons that could destroy their own planet. They had nearly wiped themselves out several times. They had only achieved peace among themselves in the last century, and even that seemed fragile. High Commander, Tevrin spoke up. I recommend caution. The humans may be more dangerous than they appear. The entire chamber turned to look at him. The High Commander's eyes narrowed. You think 200 primitive ships can challenge the Vrex Confederation? I think a species that talks this much about war usually knows how to wage it, Tevrin replied. The High Commander dismissed this with a wave. They are silent because they are afraid. Fear paralyzes. We have seen it before. The Kelth species went silent too, just before they surrendered. The humans will be the same. The Council session ended. The countdown continued. 30 days for humanity to respond. 30 days to pack up their civilization and submit. Tevrin returned to his observation post and continued studying. He watched more human media. He read their military history. He analyzed their ship designs. Something was wrong. Something didn't fit. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Still no response from humanity. Not a single word. The Vrex began moving their fleets into position. 800 warships gathered at the jump points leading to human space. They would invade on day 31 if no surrender came. Tevrin noticed something else. Human civilian traffic had stopped. No merchant ships. No exploration vessels. No communication with the few alien traders who had visited human space. Complete silence. The Virex commanders celebrated. They interpreted the quiet as submission, but Tevrin remembered something from the human military files he had read. A quote from one of their ancient strategists: "All warfare is based on deception." The humans had not sent a single reply. Day 15 arrived with no change. The Vrex fleet grew larger at the staging area, a massive collection of warships positioned at the edge of human space. They waited like predators outside a burrow, confident their prey had nowhere to run. Ambassador Tevrin stood in his observation vessel, surrounded by monitoring equipment. His team had been tracking human space for 2 weeks now. The sensor readings troubled him deeply. Still nothing? His assistant, a young quill named Rix, asked. "Nothing," Tevrin confirmed. "No broadcasts. No ship movements. No communications of any kind. The Vrek say this is normal. They say species become paralyzed when faced with overwhelming force." Tevrin's spine ridges flattened, a sign of disagreement. "I have reviewed the Vrek's conquest files. Even the species that surrendered, they still communicated. They sent messages. They tried to negotiate. They pleaded. But the humans? Perfect silence." He pulled up a star map showing human territory. 4 colony worlds orbited nearby stars. Earth, their homeworld, sat in the center. All of them had gone dark. Not destroyed, just quiet. Ships that should have been moving between worlds had vanished from sensors. Where are their civilian ships? Tevrin wondered aloud. Rix checked the data. Unknown. 2 weeks ago, we tracked 147 human civilian vessels. Now we detect 0. They did not leave human space. Our sensors would have caught them. So where did they go? The Vrex High Commander had a different interpretation. He broadcast his confidence to the entire fleet. The humans have pulled back to their homeworld. They huddle together in fear. When we arrive, they will surrender immediately. This will be the easiest conquest in Vrex history. But Tevrin could not shake his unease. He spent his nights reviewing human cultural files. Their entertainment was violent. Their sports were violent. Even their children's stories involved conflict and struggle. They were a species that had climbed to the top of their planet's food chain and stayed there for 200,000 years. He found a human documentary about their ancient history. It showed how early humans hunted prey animals. They did not chase like predators with claws and teeth. Instead, they followed. They tracked. They waited. They exhausted their prey over hours or days, then struck when the target was too tired to fight back. Persistence predators, the documentary called them. Rix pulled up the military doctrine files the humans shared with the Council. His assistant brought up the documents. They were basic tactical manuals, the kind any species might share during first contact. Nothing secret, nothing revealing, except for one line that Tevrin had overlooked before. In conflict, choose the time and place of engagement. Never allow the enemy to dictate terms. His spine ridges stood up straight. That was not the philosophy of a species that surrendered easily. Day 20 arrived. The Vrex fleet completed its assembly. 800 warships, all armed with the latest plasma weapons and shielding technology. They ran combat drills. They practiced planetary bombardment patterns. They prepared for an enemy that showed no signs of preparing for them. Tevrin called an emergency meeting with Council observers. "Something is wrong. I formally request that the Council intervene." The other observers looked at him with confusion. "Intervene how?" asked a representative from the Crystalline Assembly. "Stop the Vrex invasion. Give humanity more time, at least until we understand why they are silent." "The Vrex have filed all proper documentation," another observer replied. "Their conquest is legal under Council Charter. New species must submit to established authority or face consequences. This is how we maintain galactic order. But what if humanity is not paralyzed? What if they are planning something?" "Planning what?" "They have 200 ships against 800. They have no allies. They have no advanced weapons. What could they possibly do?" Tevrin had no answer. Only a feeling. A terrible growing certainty that everyone was missing something important. Day 25 came. Tevrin barely slept. He ran sensor sweeps of the surrounding space, pushing his equipment to maximum range. And then he found it. Faint quantum signatures at the very edge of detection. Barely there. Ghosts in the data. He ran the signatures through pattern analysis. The computer worked for hours. When it finished, Tevrin's blood ran cold. The signatures had been there for weeks. Moving through Vrex territory. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Rix, what type of signature is this? His assistant examined the data. It matches the quantum displacement from human FTL drives. But these readings are heavily dampened, like someone is trying to hide them. Can you track where they went? Tracking now. Commander, these signatures moved deep into Vrex space. Some went toward their homeworld. Others spread throughout their territory. Tevrin immediately sent an emergency message to the Vrex High Command. Human vessels detected in your territory. Possible stealth technology. Recommend defensive measures. The reply came back within an hour. Sensors show no human ships in Vrex space. Your equipment is malfunctioning. Human technology is too primitive for stealth systems. Focus on observation duties, but Tevrin knew what he saw. He pulled up more human files, this time their military history from their own world. He read about submarine warfare, about stealth aircraft, about special forces operations. Humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of moving unseen. They weren't hiding on their homeworld. They weren't paralyzed with fear. They were clearing the field. Day 30 arrived like a storm that everyone could see coming, but no one could stop. The Vrex invasion fleet hung in space. 800 warships arranged in perfect formation. Each ship gleamed with fresh paint and new weapons. The High Commander stood on his flagship bridge, surrounded by officers who believed victory was certain. Tevrin watched from his observation post, his spine ridges flat against his back in distress. His team had tracked more quantum signatures overnight. The pattern was clear now. Human ships had been moving through Vrex space for at least 3 weeks. Not just a few ships. Many ships. They had spread throughout Vrex territory like seeds scattered by the wind. Final sensor sweep before the invasion. Rix announced, running full spectrum analysis. The computers worked through massive amounts of data. Then they found something that made Tevrin's heart race. The quantum signatures were not moving anymore. They had stopped. They were holding position. Where are they? Tevrin demanded. Rix brought up a tactical map. Red dots appeared throughout Vrex space. Near shipyards, near communication hubs, near supply depots, near the homeworld itself. By the ancestors, Tevrin whispered. They are already in position. He immediately opened a priority channel to the Vrex High Command. This is Ambassador Tevrin. Emergency alert. Human forces are already deployed in your territory. Hundreds of contacts.
You must delay the invasion.
You must defend your homeworld. The response took longer this time. When it came, the voice was irritated. Ambassador, we have detected nothing. Our sensors are far superior to yours. If human ships were in our territory, we would know. They are trying to deceive you with false signals. Ignore them. High Commander, please listen. I have been studying human military doctrine. They do not fight defensively. They do not wait to be attacked. Their entire strategic philosophy is based on striking first. With what? The High Commander replied. 200 primitive ships? Even if your ghost signals are real, 200 ships cannot threaten the Vrex Confederation. We have 800 ships here, and thousands more throughout our territory. You are seeing shadows and imagining monsters. The channel closed. Tevrin stood in silence, knowing something terrible was about to happen but unable to stop it. He turned to his computer and pulled up every file the humans had shared about their military history. He read about Pearl Harbor, about Barbarossa, about the Six-Day War. He read about Blitzkrieg and shock and awe. Every major human conflict started the same way. One side struck hard, struck fast, and struck where the enemy was weakest. Rix, how many human ships have we actually seen? Verified visual contacts? His assistant checked the database. 47 ships, Commander. All during first contact and early diplomatic meetings. And we assumed they had 200 total because they told us they did. It was in their initial information packet to the Council. Tevrin felt his spine ridges begin to tremble. What if they lied? What if they have been hiding their true fleet size? Why would they do that? Because Sun Tzu, one of their ancient military philosophers, wrote, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." What if humanity has been preparing for conflict since the moment they made first contact? Before Rix could answer, alarms screamed throughout the observation post. Emergency broadcasts flooded every channel. The voice of a Vrex planetary controller came through, distorted by static and panic. Vrex homeworld under attack. Multiple human vessels. They came from inside the system. Repeat, they appeared inside the defensive perimeter. Shields down. Communication array offline. Shipyard stations non-responsive. How did they get past the early warning grid? The High Commander's voice cut through the chaos. Impossible. Our fleet is here. The humans are trapped in their own space. This must be a technical malfunction. But more reports came flooding in. Vrex colony worlds under attack. Industrial systems reporting human ships. Supply lines being cut. Everywhere the same pattern. Human forces appeared without warning, struck critical infrastructure and vanished before defenses could respond. Tevrin pulled up a tactical display of Vrex space. Red markers appeared across the map like a disease spreading. 30 systems. 30 simultaneous attacks, all happening at once. They were never on the defensive, he said quietly. The silence was not fear. It was operational security. They spent 30 days moving into position while we watched their empty homeworld and congratulated ourselves. The High Commander's channel reopened. His voice had lost its confidence. All fleet units return to Vrex space immediately. Defend the homeworld. Defend the colonies. But Tevrin saw what would happen next. He ran trajectory calculations. Commander, if the fleet turns back now, they will have to use the established jump points. The same jump points the humans know about. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting the humans have been reading human military history too. They know that a retreating army is vulnerable. They know where your fleet will go. As if on cue, the first Vrex ships that attempted to jump back to their territory reported contacts. Human ships at the jump points. Not warships, but autonomous weapons platforms. Mines, drones, missiles moving at relativistic speeds. The Vrex fleet was trapped. Not by superior numbers, but by superior planning. Humanity had turned the hunters into the hunted. How many ships do they really have? The High Commander asked, his voice barely a whisper. Tevrin looked at the tactical display. New contacts kept appearing, hundreds, maybe thousands. I think we are about to find out. On Earth, the silence finally broke. A single message transmitted to the Galactic Council. It contained just 3 words in perfect galactic standard. Negotiations are concluded. The humans had spent 30 days in silence, moving their pieces into place. Now the board was theirs. The Vrex homeworld burned. Not with fire, but with precision. Human ships had emerged from faster-than-light travel inside the star system, bypassing every early warning sensor and defensive station. They appeared like ghosts, hundreds of vessels that had somehow crossed light years without being detected until the final moment. Tevrin watched the tactical displays with growing horror. The numbers kept changing. Not 200 human ships. Not even 500. The computer counted contacts and then recounted as more appeared. 1,000. 1,500. 2,000. The tally kept rising. Where did they all come from? Rix asked, his voice shaking. They were hiding them, Tevrin replied. During first contact, they showed us a small fleet. We assumed that was everything. We never considered they might have shipyards we never saw. Facilities we never detected. They let us think they were weak. The Vrex defense fleet tried to respond, but human tactics tore through their formations like a blade through water. The Vrex relied on powerful shields and plasma weapons, technology that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries. But humans had built their entire military around different principles. Kinetic weapons, mass drivers, railguns that accelerated projectiles to incredible speeds. The Vrex shields could stop energy weapons easily, but they struggled against solid matter moving at relativistic velocities. Human ships fired metal slugs that punched through shields like they were made of air. Worse, the humans used swarming tactics. For every large warship, they had dozens of smaller craft, drones that operated without pilots, controlled by artificial intelligence that made decisions faster than biological minds could process. The drones surrounded Vrex vessels, overwhelming their defenses through sheer numbers. This is not warfare, a Vrex commander broadcast. This is butchery. They fight without honor. But honor meant nothing when your communication systems went dark. The humans had launched cyber attacks alongside their physical assault. Viruses designed specifically for Vrex computer systems spread through their networks, shutting down coordination between ships, disrupting targeting systems, filling channels with false information. The Vrex had superior technology in many ways. Their individual ships were more powerful. Their weapons had longer range. But humans fought like they were trying to kill a philosophy, not just win a battle. Tevrin accessed the human military doctrine files again. He found a document labeled Shock and Awe. He read it carefully. The strategy was simple. Hit the enemy so hard, so fast, from so many directions that they cannot respond effectively. Destroy their ability to fight back before they realize the fight has started. That was exactly what was happening. Across 30 Vrex systems, human forces struck at the same moment. Not random attacks, carefully chosen targets, shipyards where new vessels were built, communication hubs that coordinated the empire, supply depots that kept the military functioning, orbital defense platforms, sensor arrays. The humans were not trying to conquer territory. They were dismantling the Vrex war machine piece by piece. New contacts, Rix announced. The Vrex invasion fleet is trying to return home. They are engaging human forces at jump point Delta 7. Tevrin pulled up that sector. The 800 Vrex warships had attempted to retreat back to their territory, but human forces waited for them. The jump point had been mined with autonomous weapons. As each Vrex ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, it ran straight into a wall of explosives and railgun fire. The Vrex High Commander broadcast on all channels, requesting immediate council intervention. The human attack violates all protocols of civilized warfare. They must be stopped. Council Speaker Morn appeared on the communication channel, his ancient face grave. The Council cannot intervene in an active conflict between two species. This is your war, High Commander. You started it. We issued a legal ultimatum according to Council Charter. And they replied. Tevrin said quietly, just not with words. The battle raged for 48 hours. Human ships struck and vanished, using hit-and-run tactics that prevented the Vrex from mounting an effective counterattack. When Vrex forces concentrated to defend one location, humans struck somewhere else. When the Vrex split their forces to cover more ground, humans destroyed them in detail. Tevrin studied the human fleet movements and recognized patterns from Earth's own history. Naval warfare, air superiority campaigns, combined arms operations. Humanity had spent 10,000 years fighting itself, learning every possible way to wage war. Now they used all that knowledge against an enemy that had only fought weaker opponents. The Vrex Confederation controlled 47 star systems. Within 2 days of fighting, 30 of those systems had their military infrastructure damaged or destroyed. Shipyards lay in ruins. Communication networks were scrambled. Orbital defenses were offline. Thousands of Vrex military personnel were dead, and the humans had barely suffered any losses. Their ships were fast, their tactics were unpredictable, and they refused to fight on Vrex terms. They are not fighting to win, Tevrin told the council observers who gathered to watch. They are fighting to ensure the Vrex can never threaten them again. A crystalline observer asked the question everyone was thinking. How do we stop them? We do not, Tevrin replied. The Vrex stop them by surrendering. Otherwise, humanity will reduce the Confederation to ash and memory. More reports flooded in. Vrex colony worlds were being evacuated under human supervision, not destroyed but occupied. Human forces landed on planets and secured government buildings, communication centers, and military bases. They did not harm civilians, but they made it clear that Vrex authority was over. The High Commander broadcast one final message. I request a ceasefire. I request negotiations, please, enough. The human response came 12 hours later. A single word, acknowledged, the shooting stopped. Human forces held their positions but did not advance further. They waited. In 72 hours, humanity had done what no species had accomplished in 400 years. They had broken the Vrex Confederation, not through superior technology, but through superior strategy, superior planning, and a level of organized violence that shocked the entire galaxy. The humans had been silent for 30 days. Now everyone understood why. They were not preparing a defense. They were waging total war. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Every species sent their highest representatives. The chamber that had witnessed the Vrex ultimatum 33 days ago now held a very different gathering. The Vrex High Commander stood in the defendant's position, his forearms hanging limp, his proud bearing gone. Humanity sent their first diplomatic representative since the war began. Ambassador Elizabeth Chen walked into the chamber wearing a simple black suit. She was shorter than most species present, unremarkable in appearance, but when she took her position, every eye in the chamber fixed on her. Council Speaker Morn opened the session. Ambassador Chen, the Galactic Council recognizes humanity's military victory over the Vrex Confederation. We are here to discuss terms of peace and prevent further bloodshed. Chen nodded politely. Thank you, Speaker Morn. Before we begin, I want to apologize for our delayed response to the Vrex ultimatum. We wanted to ensure our message was perfectly clear. Tevrin watched Chen carefully. Her voice was calm, her expression friendly. She could have been discussing trade agreements instead of the complete dismantling of a galactic power. That made her more terrifying than any Vrex warrior. The Vrex Confederation formally surrenders, the High Commander said, his voice heavy with defeat. We accept whatever terms humanity demands. We only ask for mercy for our civilian population. Your civilians have not been harmed, Chen replied. Human forces have strict rules of engagement. We do not wage war against non-combatants. We are not monsters. You destroyed 30 systems in 3 days, another council member said. You killed thousands. We destroyed military infrastructure. We neutralized strategic assets. We eliminated the Vrek's ability to threaten us or anyone else. Those are legitimate military targets. And yes, people died. That is what happens when you start a war. Chen's voice remained calm, but her words cut like a blade. We did not start this conflict. We tried to avoid it. We stayed silent because we hoped the Vreks would reconsider. They did not. She activated a holographic display. These are humanity's terms. First, the Vreks Confederation will immediately grant independence to all species they have conquered in the last 400 years. Those 12 species will be free to govern themselves. The High Commander's eyes widened. That will break the Confederation apart. That is the point, Chen replied. Second, the Vreks will pay reparations to those species. You will help rebuild what you forced them to abandon. Third, the Vreks military will be reduced to a defensive force only. No more conquest. No more expansion. No more threatening new species. And fourth, Speaker Morn asked, fourth, there will be trials. Vreks commanders who ordered attacks on civilian populations, who committed atrocities against conquered species, who violated what few rules of war exist in this galaxy. They will face justice, the chamber erupted in discussion. Some species protested that the terms were too harsh. Others argued they were not harsh enough. Tevrin remained silent, watching Chen's face. She showed no emotion, no satisfaction, no anger. She simply waited for the noise to die down. I have a question, Tevrin said when he could be heard. Why did you strike so hard? You could have defended your own territory and forced a stalemate. Instead, you invaded Vrek's space and crushed them completely. Why? Chen turned to face him. For the first time, something like warmth entered her expression. Ambassador Tevrin, I have read your reports. You were the only one who tried to warn everyone. You studied our history. You tried to understand us, so you should know the answer. She pulled up images from human history, ancient wars, medieval battles, world wars, nuclear standoffs. Humanity has spent its entire existence fighting. We have nearly destroyed ourselves 12 times. We have learned lessons written in blood and ash. And the most important lesson is this. If someone tells you they plan to destroy you, believe them. And make certain they never get the chance. We monitored galactic communications for years before revealing ourselves, Chen continued. We watched the Vreks conquer other species. We saw how they operated. We knew that when we made first contact, they would eventually come for us. So we prepared. You prepared for 3 years? The High Commander asked. How? We built ships. We designed weapons. We trained soldiers. We created strategies. We did everything we could to ensure that if war came, we would win it decisively. Chen's voice hardened slightly. You saw 47 ships during first contact because that is what we wanted you to see. You thought we were weak because that is what we wanted you to think. We gave you bad intelligence because we assumed you would use it against us. That is deception, a council member protested. That is not civilized behavior. Civilized behavior is not threatening to destroy a species you just met, Chen shot back. Civilized behavior is not forcing people from their homes because you want their planet. The Vrek started this war the moment they sent that ultimatum. We just finished it, Tevrin spoke again. What happens now? Do you plan to become the new dominant power? Will humanity start making ultimatums to other species? Chen shook her head. No, we want to trade. We want to learn. We want to exist peacefully. But we will not be pushed around. We will not be threatened. We will not be conquered. Make no mistake. If another species tries what the Vreks attempted, we will respond the same way. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. We come in peace. We are prepared for war. The choice of which you meet was always yours. The Council voted on humanity's terms. They passed unanimously. The Vreks Confederation would be dismantled. The conquered species would be freed. The galaxy's political structure would change forever. As the session ended, Tevrin approached Chen. May I ask one more question? Of course, Ambassador. The silence. The 30 days without a response. Was that part of your strategy? Chen smiled slightly. We needed time to move our forces into position. We needed the Vreks to feel confident, to gather their fleet in one place, to leave their territory vulnerable. We needed them to think we were paralyzed with fear. And yes, we needed them to wait while we prepared. So we said nothing. Silence is just another form of communication, Ambassador. We were speaking. The galaxy just did not understand the language. Tevrin's spine ridges trembled. What language is that? The language humanity speaks best, Chen replied. The language of calculated, overwhelming, unstoppable force applied with surgical precision. We were not silent because we had nothing to say. We were silent because we were already saying everything we needed to say through our actions. She nodded politely and walked away, leaving Tevrin standing in the chamber. He looked at the empty seat where the Vrex High Commander had stood, now vacant. The galaxy had waited for humanity's reply. They just had not understood that the quiet meant it was already too late.